Hi there, I'm Robert Dutt with channelbuzz.ca, joined once again by Mark Sokol from ConnectWise.
Thanks, Robert.
Mark, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks.
Rounding out our series of conversations here from the ConnectWise studios, I want to talk a little bit about the state of the market in Canada specifically. I guess maybe just open it up with what does the community look like? You mentioned the ConnectWisers a few times, the user group in Canada, but what does the user base for ConnectWise look like in Canada?
Yeah, right now we have approximately 250 partners all throughout Canada. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, probably it's about a 50-50 split between our on-premise version of ConnectWise and our cloud version of ConnectWise today. It's actually one of the more growing, speaking of the user group, the ConnectWisers, it's actually one of the ones that is growing a little bit bigger, a little bit larger every year than some of our others, where they've kind of maxed out a little bit. And really they max out because we close them down. But the Canadian, we're very excited about it because, it's funny when we go to, and I can be very US-centric because I am. But
sure.
When we go to a user group, whether it's in the U.S. or Canada or some of our other, we're all the same. We're all trying to provide the same services and things like that, and that's pretty neat. That's kind of why we've taken the time to. One thing we have done is we put together an account management team. So ConnectWise, we've had some growth throughout the last several years, and the term account manager just did not exist within ConnectWise. So we realized, especially within the Canadian market, so we added an account management team that actually will support specifically our Canadian partners today. So it's one of our areas there. As far as trying to focus on how we grow, with 250 partners, we believe there's several thousand.
Yeah,
right. Several thousand partners there, so we see a lot of opportunity to spread the ConnectWise a message there, to bring the community there, and bring the what we believe our ability to help them grow as well to the Canadian market. And I think with that account management focus, and our focus is just that we have a lot of room for growth here, as we do in probably a lot of other areas. We're very excited about it.
What's your assessment of the Canadian MSP market in general, and the not necessarily the MSP market, but the market for managed services? I mean, on the plus side or the pro side, you've certainly got the fact that Canada is a nation of small and medium businesses
sure.
who tend to be, by nature, friendly to the managed services message. But we keep hearing, as Canadians, that the U.S. is a little bit further down the curve in the journey towards managed services. Curious where you see that gap and if it's closing.
Yeah, and I think it could be regionalized. The United States, just like within Canada, you're going to have pockets. Northeast, I think over on our West Coast, within the U.S., they definitely were more willing to adopt that model over the last several years. However, we're starting to see that grow within the United States. There's definitely a lot of research that has shown the same thing within Canada, that the willingness to move to the managed service model is becoming important. And we've talked about this before, about small businesses wanting to kind of focus on growth, focus on their core business, and getting out of the mundane to having an internal IT person having to take care of that. That guy's always there. He's not really doing anything as far as upgrading their systems. They believe they need them, but they're not sure why. And I think it's on us as managed service providers is to provide that value and provide those, especially as we move to all the different the new devices and the cloud and of course the mobile devices, and what does that mean to the small business, and how can they take advantage of those technologies? And that's where we come in. So have I heard any differences, whether it's in the U.S. or Canada? We really haven't, and we hear that going to our user groups up in Canada every 3 months. We go up there. We have not heard that specifically from our partners.
What are you hearing? What's sort of top of the agenda at the ConnectWisers meetings every 3 months? Well,
we were just there recently, and we'll be out there in the next few months. Really, and it's almost, I'm not sure what happened. January 1st hit, and everybody started talking about mobile devices. That's it. That's the big conversation.
You're the mobile device.
It is. It is. You know, whether you love them or you hate them, they're coming on strong. The data shows we've seen it. I think it's 2 to 3 devices on average that people have today, which is amazing. It was a really amazing statistic to me because I know grandma doesn't have it. But in the business world, that's definitely coming on board. You see them. We started seeing it at our event at IT Nation a couple years ago. We went through and started trying to count off all the laptops. Well, they weren't there anymore. Everybody had an iPad. You know, they're too heavy to lug around. It's great access. It's fast. But managing those devices, that's where, you know, we heard talking about how are we going to do this? How are we going to, you know, if it gets lost, how are we going to go ahead and remote wipe it or add security codes and kind of manage those devices? So I think that's pretty consistent. It's no different in Canada or U.S. That's the proliferation of these devices are what 2012 is all about.
Trying to figure out how to extend the managed device concept beyond the desktop, the server, and the laptop to all these
exactly.
devices.
Honestly, the hardest part right now that we see, because I think the RMM, they're coming on board with all this, how much do you charge? I think that was... you know?
The classic problem at the beginning of the managed services curve, though, is figuring out how exactly to charge for that.
Exactly, exactly.
What do you see your best-in-class partners in Canada and around North America doing to differentiate themselves? You know, what's kind of the cutting edge in terms of differentiating yourself and setting yourself aside from the herd?
I think it's a combination of things. First, choose ConnectWise. Select ConnectWise.
Yeah.
As we see partners, so I say that, you know, but it's actually true, right? Because we're meeting partners, and sometimes we do have, you know, soon-to-be partners at some of our user groups. But what we see, it's pretty consistent. One, it's really not cutting edge. I wouldn't say it's cutting edge. Our successful partners have figured out how to not speak technically, but speak from a business standpoint and what they're providing. They tend to focus on specific verticals. Because once you get one doctor's office or one lawyer's office, you can start to be competent in the tools and the solutions that they need. And you can
start speaking the language.
And start speaking their language, exactly. They're all different nuances within there. So, you know, they kind of focus on putting some processes in place. They focus on verticals. But then they're also focused on, okay, what's the next step? Where am I? They plan. There's more of a planning aspect to it. Then we see as they grow, they're willing to start letting go of some of the things that they need to. You know, you see them time and time again, partners that tend to stay the same, they're comfortable where they're at. But the ones that are these successful ones, and when we see them grow from 5 to 50 employees over a number of years, they let go, they hire really smart people, and they don't have to come from the IT space. I heard a great story at IT Nation that the number one sales guy had been a manager at Wendy's at one time, Wendy's hamburgers. So good people, I mean, we do have an IT tech shortage, but you don't, from a sales standpoint, you need somebody that's personable, that can, you know, speak in a business language and speak about business problems, solving those business problems. So, you know, that's what I think we should look for. So I think it's kind of it's not adding on this vendor's application or this service, right? It's kind of a combination of all these things.
It's people and processes as well.
It is, and I want to add to that, big believer in these peer groups that are out there today. HTG is one of them. That's where you get all the best ideas. That's where you get these individuals that are speaking to you outside of, let's say, ConnectWise and our user groups and IT Nation, where we provide a lot of that access to other partners as well.
All right. You mentioned that you sometimes have folks who are not quite yet ConnectWise customers come out to the events. What can a potential partner expect if they show up at the Toronto user group in a couple of months and basically, you know, what's the pitch? Why should I, as a as an MSP or a VAR who's interested in managed services, consider coming out to the user group?
Well, so ConnectWise at a user group, there is, it starts out, typically we will have a function in the evening on the first day, so a function in the evening, dinner, sitting with partners from all over the country that have come in, or maybe obviously local as well, and they're people just like you. They're people that are potentially, if they're long-term ConnectWise partners, typically more successful. They've been through the growing pains. If you're a 2-person or a 3 or 4-person shop, you're going to run into partners that are maybe 15 or 20 today. They've been through that pain. They started it on their own. Then they hired their first employee, and then they went through those growing pains. A lot of wisdom out there, a lot of knowledge. How do you, anywhere from those billing, what you charge questions, to how do you put an agreement together, to how do you maybe focus on a vertical. It's all out there, and that's what we provide ConnectWise partners and those that are soon-to-be partners. And let me tell you, we do have a focus on our soon-to-be partners coming to user groups, and because we believe, and it's actually proven that those events show that value of ConnectWise not only as a software product, but as a community will help you get there and help you however large or however you want to maintain your business and grow. We believe ConnectWise, and especially in the form of these user groups, will help you get there.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll see some new faces out in Toronto in May, and good luck with that. Again, thank you very much for your time
Sure,
on
we
the
will.
series of these chats.
All right. Well, thank you.
And thank you for joining us. I'm Robert Dutt, channelbuzz.ca.